And in a bit, we'll be delving our attention into a pressing issue that is affecting some of South Africa's most vulnerable citizens. The South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, has recently introduced new barriers when it comes to the social relief distress grant system, ostensibly trying to prevent fraud. However, these changes are preventing mainly eligible recipients from receiving their much needed grants. The introduction of a biometric verification system requiring access to smartphones and the internet has created significant obstacles for those living on less than 624 Rand a month. Joining us to discuss the implications of these changes and the broader call for a universal basic income guarantee is General Alfred Moyo from the hashtag Pay the Grants campaign, a movement dedicated to ensuring that all South Africans receive the financial support they need to survive and thrive. General Moyo is joining us via telephone. General Moyo, thank you so much for giving us your time. Welcome to Salam Media.
Good morning and good morning to the Salam Media radio listener.
I think first and foremost, if you can give us some context and insights on these new very significant barriers that have been put into place by the South African Social Security agencies and how they're affecting those that are trying to access their grants. Any stories that you can also share, specific stories of examples from individuals who have been directly affected by these new requirements.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think this is affecting many millions who actually got this latest development from SASSA around June after the pay dates. So they've been placed on the status referred status, meaning that they were not sure if they are going to get their monies or not. Then the status referred them to the verification process through the biometric system. Then the challenge that faced many of the beneficiaries were that they had no smartphones, which is a critical challenge that they are facing, as they've been relying on those that have smartphones to assist them to check their status and to apply or to register for those grants, as many don't have smartphones. And the other challenge is that they are not that digitally smart to go through these verification processes, that it became sort of a sudden barrier starting from June, with no notification or any explanation to the beneficiaries that SASSA have tried to make. So many found themselves in those referred status that they have to go through these barriers to have the smartphone, not only just a smartphone, but a smartphone with a quality photograph that can be taken from that phone that can match your biometric link. So the process is very dividing, in a sense that it's a digital divide that we are starting to see in these poor, vulnerable communities, whereby those that cannot go through those digital processes in understanding the digital step-by-step verification process that is required by this SASSA new process is a very serious challenging, and many of them didn't receive even their June payments.
And I'm pretty sure as an organization, you've had some kind of engagement with with SASSA. If you can give us any insight on what those engagements have been, how have they responded to some of the concerns that you've raised, which are very legitimate and are affecting the poorest of the poor in our communities.
The challenge these days with SASSA, it doesn't engage. It pushes through all these new regulations, promulgate them overnight without any notification, without any consultations. So it's very difficult even to get a clear clarity from their side, because as you rightfully indicated, that this is something that they allege that is to prevent fraudulent activities, with no substantiated evidence of such activities, except that this is another way of chopping and pushing out many of those who are vulnerable, who are entitled to those monies out of the system. Because we've seen when this was starting, before this so-called biometric verification, it was the era of the errors. Then we passed that era of the errors. It became the other era of glitches, the so-called technical glitches. Now is the systematic exclusionary measures that are being imposed on vulnerable communities with those systems and processes that are not actually for the poor, to assist actually in those circumstances, in making sure that they receive those grants.
And I think one thing that really stands out for me is the fact that they're saying they're trying to mitigate issues of corruption and fraud. But then again, you have people that live on less than 624 rand a month. Obviously, they're going to go to people with the smartphones, people with the access to the internet and the technology to try and access these new biometric systems, leaving their information with those people, and ultimately having those people take their grants and using them for themselves. I'm sure there've been some cases of something like this unfolding.
I think we all remember the big exposure of people's identity theft, where over millions of South African IDs were actually discovered overseas. And we've seen this with the previous third party that was used by the SASSA to distribute those very same grants, whereby it was like charging people for unnecessary costs like your airtime, loans, and so forth, even if those people or beneficiaries never took in some loans or never knew about such schemes. So we are seeing those excuses as from SASSA as another way of putting a man-made barriers that will keep on excluding many millions, as we've seen this as a tactic that comes from the treasury, putting some of those thresholds to make sure that people cannot survive. If you have something like 1,000 rand, which is an assistance that you got from your relative, then you are automatically declined. So meaning that you are forced to live with less than 650 rand, and also forced to have a smartphone, forced to have a data, which is something that many people who are relying on those 370 rand, realistically, they cannot really afford to survive and have all those luxury equipments. So automatically, the very same corruption, the very same fraud that they are saying they are trying to prevent is more they will be promulgating and they will be pushing, because vulnerable people who cannot afford those smart cards, who cannot have data, who cannot have access to Wi-Fi, they will be relying to the people who will assist them, who have laptops, who have smartphones, who have data, and so forth. So automatically, their information will keep on circulate and be rotating and be stolen and used for wrong purposes.
What steps do you think the government should be taking to ensure that all eligible citizens, regardless of their form of identification and whether or not they are able to access this technology, can access their grants on time?
As I indicated, that we've been through many cycles of challenges which are being named different names: errors, technical glitches, now your biometric verification process, which is another technical glitch, which is a man-made glitch. So I think the only solution that we've been advancing for is an endorsement and a full implementation of the universal basic income guarantee, which will not have any of those glitches and errors. So that will be a smooth process that might not be that cost effective as those other systems that they are trying to put in place. So those will not leave anyone behind, will not have any of those digital divide that we are seeing currently. That will widen the inequality gap, that will push through the skyrocketing poverty, inequality, and starvation in the country.
All right, I think we're going to leave it there, General Alfred Moyo. Thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us insight on these critical issues that are affecting the poorest of the poor in our communities.
Thank you very much.
Oh, there you have it. I think it's quite concerning, man. How do you expect someone that's getting a grant from the government, a SASA grant, to be able to afford one, data, two, a smartphone that can, take a high quality picture and download these apps to, receive those biometric details from SASA when they're surviving on such literally next to nothing? Eh? This is sometimes you just wonder if our government is really in tune and understands what the people on the ground are going through. Chief, I don't have a job, or I'm a pensioner. I don't even know how to use a standard smartphone. But you expect me to be able to download an app, upload my biometrics so that I can access 350 rands? Quite disappointing. I think we need to get hold of Hanif Hendricks, the Deputy Minister of Social Development, just to understand from their department what do they make of this? Do they understand and know what the people on the ground, the millions and millions of South Africans that are getting these SRD grants and these old age grants, pensioners, and the child grants, if they really understand what they're going through and the immediate needs they have, which I can tell you for certain is definitely not a smartphone. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be chatting to Professor Chalf Halper.